Hello everyone, welcome back. We're here with another review. So today we're going to be doing the third installment of the Westin Pack series by Julie Treadle, and that book is Forever Mine. Let's take a moment and enjoy the cover. You know me, I'm a sucker for a beautiful cover. So, if you haven't read the previous books, read those books before you read this book or even watch this review, because there's going to be some spoilers, no matter how you slice it. So let's get into trigger warnings, because unlike the last book in the series, there are some pretty significant ones. So trigger warnings include sexual assault, PTSD, references to anorexia, pregnancy as a result of a sexual assault, parents having to, if you're a parent, one of the characters disappears for years. So that's going to be very triggering for parents. There's also a scene where people are held in cages. We're not talking cells. We're talking cages. Think like really, really large kennels. That kind of a thing, right? So we're going to have to get a little bit into backstory before we get into the actual story of the book. So Liam Westin is the second son of the previous Pack Alpha for Westin Pack. When his brother Kyle mated a young woman named Kelsey, there was a huge dramatic response. It caused conflict between different packs. There was a battle. The previous Pack Alpha lost a lot of power and had to step down as Alpha of the pack. Kyle had to step up, so Liam is now in place as CEO of Westin Foundation. Westin Foundation is how most of the people in the pack earn a bulk of their living, because they invest their money in Westin Foundation and they live off of the stipends. Madelyn Collier is the daughter of the Pack Alpha for Collier Pack. And the Collier Pack Alpha and the former Westin Pack Alpha were very close friends and brought their kids up to be very close friends. So even though they lived in separate states, the kids would routinely go and visit each other. Lily Westin is Liam's twin sister and Madelyn's best friend, so they would routinely go and visit each other, like over the summer, over spring breaks, things like that. So the kids all very much grew up together. They're very close. When Madelyn was 16, she disappeared, and this is referenced in the previous book. So, getting into this book, Kyle is in San Diego, San Francisco, one of the big cities in California. He's there doing business. While he's there, he's planning to pick up a gift for his nephew, and he happens to strike up a conversation with this young boy who's in the lounge at the hotel, and it ends up with this little boy giving him a recommendation for his nephew's first birthday gift. He happens to see a woman that he thinks looks like Madelyn Collier, and he doesn't know what to do. Madelyn is freaking out because she saw Liam. She knows that he recognized her, and she doesn't want to go home, because after she was sexually assaulted, you know, most women who have been assaulted go through, you know, there are different phases. You feel dirty, you feel like it's your fault, you know, all sorts of horrible, horrible emotions, and she never really got past that. So she doesn't want to go home. She thinks it's better for her family to just go ahead and think that she died. She thinks that her wolf died on the night of the assault, so she kind of feels like she really shouldn't be part of the shifter world anymore. So Liam does manage to find her again, and he realizes that she is in fact his fated mate. So he's trying to convince her to come home. She's trying to convince him to let her go, forget you ever saw me, you're better off without me, all that kind of a thing. Things change though, because if you remember from the previous book in Fighting Destiny, Elise had been abducted by people from the Bulgarian pack. And when her mate went to find her, there were humans who had been watching the Bulgarians, and they were debating whether or not to intercede because they didn't want to see war break out between the packs. Well, Elise's mate ended up partnering with these guys to get Elise away from the Bulgarians. And it was very clear that these people had been watching the packs for a while, because they very clearly knew like quite a bit about pack hierarchy and things of that nature. But you're kind of led to believe that they're very benign. The behavior of a couple of these guys was very like fanboyish, so it was almost like reverence. But in this book, we learn that these men are members of a group called the Order of Vendari. It's very much a secret society that's generational. And while some of them regard shifters with reverence and awe, there are just as many, as a growing number in fact, that don't look at shifters in that way. And they have some very horrible, nefarious intentions. So with this development, Liam convinces Madeleine to come back with him to Westin Pack and to bring her son Oscar. And here's another trigger warning. Again, this one's for the parents. We have a very heartbreaking scene where Liam convinces Madeleine to let him call her parents to let them know that she is in fact alive. Pardon me for just a second. This is like my 6th take on this video, so my throat's getting dry. So she is in the room while he is talking to her parents, who I believe are on speakerphone, telling them that Madeleine is in fact alive. They want to come get her, and he has to explain to them that A, she's my fated mate, she's gonna have to stay here, and B, she doesn't want to see you yet. And as a parent, that is freaking hard, to think that your child would ever think that you would be better off without them. That is a terrible, terrible thing for a parent to have to hear. And it's a very painful scene to read. So, from there, we have a lot of mental and emotional growing for the characters. And then Madeleine decides to try to help get somebody out who has been captured. And this is when she sees people who are held in cages. And it does feed into the Order of Vendari storyline. I'm not going to say how, because I have a bad habit of telling too much story. I'm working really hard to not do that. So that's basically the synopsis without getting too terribly in depth. We have someone who's been gone and been found, and we're setting the groundwork through the storyline of the Order of Vendari for future storylines, and also by bringing in a character from another pack that's going to come into play again in future stories as well. And in fact, they'll get their own spin-off series, so hey. So let's get into the actual character analysis. Well, not so much analysis, but just like my viewpoints on the characters. So Madelyn Collier very clearly is a troubled woman who had a very horrible, horrible trauma forced upon her. And she never really got over that. She never really progressed. She made a certain level of healing after she had her son, but she is still very prone to panic attacks. She, like, the whole bit where Oscar met Liam in the lounge at the beginning of the story, it was a big thing for Oscar. They never really got to do stuff like this, like go into a big city, because she was known for having these panic attacks, and it kind of was another disappointment for Oscar, because when she felt Liam, she started having another panic attack and they had to leave, which was very sad for Oscar. And it was heartbreaking because Oscar at this very young age is so used to it that even though he's disappointed, he really doesn't put up any sort of a fuss about it. He's just like, it's okay, Mom, you tried. So we have a little bit of a role reversal of parent and child. Oscar essentially has to take care of his mom on more than one occasion. And it's not fair to him. And she knows it's not fair to him. So she's very conflicted about it. And she hurts that is the situation for him. Again, she's lived all these years in the human world thinking that her wolf had died. So there is an element of displacement because she grew up believing she was going to be a wolf shifter, and then before she ever had her first shift, this happens and she thinks it'll never happen. And so a lot of her story arc is her learning to start to try to move forward. And her having panic attacks comes in future stories as well. It's very realistic to me, the way that they do it. It is not just like pure hysteria all the time. There's very clear reasons why these episodes hit. And I mean, when you read the flashback scene for the night of the assault, it is very clear that these are things she's going to live with for a very long time. But she does make progress, and she does make the decision to try, and she does make the decision that I do want to have my family back in my life, and I do want to try and do better for my son. So you do get a lot of progression that way. Liam basically had a huge crush on Madeleine when they were growing up. She was the only girl he'd ever really cared about. So when she disappeared, a part of him changed as well. He had to start really taking care of his sister every year on the anniversary of Madeleine's disappearance, because they'd been best friends. So every year it's extremely hard for her on the anniversary of Madeleine's disappearance. So Liam will go out of his way to try and cheer her up and make things better for her. He's changed to the point where when he had gone off to college, he became super party boy. Like, he would go out partying, drinking, hooking up with random chicks, something he never thought he would do. And he really never came out of it until the whole thing with Kyle and Kelsey's mating happened, and Kyle had to step up and become Pack Alpha. So Madeleine's leaving really changed Liam quite a bit. And when he finds her again, he has to go through a lot of introspection as well as to how it affected him in his life. The possibility that she might not decide to be his mate, because even though she's his fated mate, she's very clear she doesn't want to be with him. Not because she doesn't care about him, but because she cares about him too much. And then the stress of learning about the Order of the Vendari, and his protective mode really goes into effect here. He had never shown any major alpha tendencies until he met Madeleine. And then also his internal struggle about the whole how Oscar had been conceived. Like, he doesn't take it out on Oscar. He very much cares for Oscar as much as he cares about Madeleine. But it's very hard for him to think about how he was conceived and all that stuff. And it's very hard for him when he hears from the couple that took them in about, some of the things she went through. Like, they told him about her anorexic tendencies after the assault. And it's very easy to forget how things like this will affect a significant other, even like the background of it, because it's a lot for a significant other to take on for someone who's been the victim of an assault, because they will have to kind of be careful of what they say and do to an extent to kind of minimize the amount of triggers. You know, it's not an easy thing to live with someone who has survived something like that. And then there's also Oscar in a major way as well, because as I've already stated, there's a role reversal between parent and child. There are many scenes where he is consoling his mother when she should be consoling him. There are many scenes where he is very protective of his mother when he starts to feel her get tensed up. Even when he meets Liam's nephew, Xander, for the first time, the baby that, that Liam is trying to find the correct birthday gift for, he's very paternal to him and big brother to him in a very caring sort of way, which is very sweet, but also kind of gives you insight into just how much of a parent figure he's been to his mom. And he's finally getting a chance to relax and kind of be a kid for the first time. So there's a lot of character development in here. And then you have, again, the backstory with everything. So it's a lot to take in. I do not recommend planning on reading this book unless you have time to invest in reading it and really process it, because it is a lot to take in, just like the first book was. But it is very well done. Again, the story is well written. You have a lot of adding on to storyline for future storyline. It's not as involved as the first story, but you can definitely tell it's going to be setting for future scenes for sure. So overall, I think I'm going to give this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So I hope I didn't ramble too much on this one. I know that I did, because it's like 12:30 in the morning. But I hope you enjoy this review. I hope you look forward to coming back for future reviews. If you have any book recommendations, if you have any requests, please let me know in the comments down below. I can't promise that I will do them, but I can definitely promise that I will check them out and go from there. So you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time reading this book, should you choose to do so. I look forward to seeing you all at the next review. See you later. Bye-bye.